Shadows remember us in ways light never does. Light shows the surface of things, but shadows hold their shape. They keep the outlines of every moment. Long after the moment is gone, you can walk through a room you haven't visited in years and feel something familiar move across the walls. A quiet presence that wasn't there for the light, but appears for you. That is the memory of shadows. The soft reminder that nothing you've lived has truly disappeared. Shadows don't fade as quickly as memories. They linger, stretching across floors, climbing the edges of old photographs, sleeping in corners where no one looks. They collect what we forget. The small gestures, the quiet disappointments, the laughter that ended too soon. There's a reason nostalgia feels dim. Why remembering someone often feels like standing in a doorway where the light has just passed. Shadows carry the emotional residue of our lives, the outlines of who we were before life asked us to become something else. We learn to fear darkness, but shadows are not darkness. They are the shape of what mattered. The proof that something once stood here. Someone once breathed here. Some moment once echoed in this exact space. If you stand still long enough, the past begins to move again. In the corners of your vision. A flicker you can't quite name. A feeling you've felt before, even if you can't place where. That is how shadows speak. Not in words, but in gestures. In the way they fold along the floor, like memories trying to find their way back to you. Shadows do not lie. They reveal what light refuses to hold. The tiredness behind a smile. The truth behind silence. The parts of us that hide when the world becomes too bright. And maybe that's why loss feels like a dimming. Because shadows keep the form of what's missing. Long after it's gone. They remind us gently, almost tenderly, of what the heart still carries. But shadows are not grief. They are the bridge between what was and what remains. They honor the outlines, so we can fill them again. Because even in the faintest memory, even in the softest dim light, you are still here. And the shadows still remember your shape. Shadows follow us even when we don't look back. They move with us quietly, unbothered by the noise and distraction of the world. They cling to our steps like soft reminders of everything we've carried but never spoken. It's strange how shadows grow longer when the light begins to fade, as if memory itself stretches. When life slows down enough for us to finally feel its weight, there are shadows from childhood that still live inside us. The corner of a room where we once cried. The place on the wall where sunlight moved. As we waited for someone who never came. We grow older, but those shadows remain. Not as wounds, but as proof that we survived what once felt impossible. Shadows remember what the mind edits out. The moments we said we were fine. The nights we stared at the ceiling. The days we smiled through quiet storms. Light is too quick, too honest, too sharp. It exposes, but it does not preserve. Shadows do. They soften everything we couldn't hold raw. You can feel this softness in people who have lived through loss. They carry a gentler shadow, an outline shaped not by despair, but by understanding, as if their past follows them, not to haunt, but to remind them of how deep the heart can go. There's a shadow for every goodbye we never gave, for every version of ourselves we outgrew, for every dream we set down quietly when the world asked us to be realistic. These shadows don't accuse us. They accompany us, walk beside us like old friends who know too much to leave. And in the quiet moments, when the room goes dim and the mind stops insisting on certainty, those shadows rise around us, gentle silhouettes of a life we are still learning how to understand. We sometimes think shadows are reminders of what we've lost, but they are also reminders of where we've grown. Every shadow forms because there is light somewhere, even if we can't see its source yet. That's the mercy hidden inside them. Shadows only exist because something is still shining. And in that dim glow, something inside us begins to soften. A recognition, a return, a quiet acceptance of everything that shaped us. Shadows hold the memories we aren't ready to let go of, and the ones we finally can. They do not cling. They accompany. They wait, because they know that the moment you turn toward the light again, they will move with you, not as darkness, but as depth. There comes a moment when the shadows stop feeling heavy. They begin to move differently, not as echoes of what you've lost, but as companions to what you've found. You notice it in small ways. The way a dark shape stretches across the floor in the morning and feels less like a reminder and more like a presence. The way certain memories return without the ache they used to carry. Shadows change when we change. They soften when we forgive. They fade when we let go. They brighten when hope returns. Not because the past disappears, but because the heart finally learns how to carry it without breaking. The memory of shadows is never about what's gone. It's about what remains. The outline of love that shaped us. The silhouette of moments that made us stronger. The quiet shape of every lesson we didn't know we were learning. Shadows are the teachers we don't see until the world grows dim enough for their wisdom to appear. They show us the parts of ourselves we avoid in the daylight. The doubts, the longings, the truths that speak only in stillness. But as life moves, so do the shadows. And eventually, you realize they've been guiding you, not pulling you backward, but pointing you inward. You start to walk with them instead of away from them. You speak to them in the soft language of acceptance, and they answer by growing lighter. The past no longer clings to your heels. It walks beside you, not as burden, but as depth. A layer of meaning beneath every breath. One day, you look around and notice that the shadows are not behind you anymore. They are around you, woven into the fabric of who you are, without weighing you down. They've become memory with room to breathe. A gentle resonance. A shape you recognize, without needing to escape. And in that moment, you understand something quiet and true. Shadows don't follow us because they are lost. They follow us because they remember what we have forgotten. They remember that every pain softened us. Every ending opened us. Every dark moment taught us how to seek the smallest light. The memory of shadows is the memory of becoming. The silhouettes of every version of yourself that carried you here. And when you finally step into the light again, you see them for what they really are. Not darkness, but history. Not weight, but wisdom. Not fear, but form. Shadows exist because something in you still shines.